He's Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com, the NBC Sports Network, 5:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday. How important is the Colin Kaepernick story, Mike?
You know, I think it's much ado about nothing. It's an incident report. He's listed on it as a suspect, although there's nothing he's suspected of doing. Also, Quentin Patton of the 49ers and Ricardo Lockett of the Seahawks listed as suspects. No one's accused of doing anything. A woman was in an apartment. She was in bed. She passed out, and she woke up in the hospital, and there's no accusation. There's no evidence of any sexual assault. It initially was reported by TMZ as a sexual assault investigation. Kaepernick has sounded off against that on Twitter just a little while ago, and it looks like nothing's going to come of it, but it's just one of those things where, okay, what happened in between? And if Kaepernick's going to talk about this, then I think some people are going to say, well, why don't you explain how this woman went from being passed out in a bed to being in a hospital bed? What happened in between those two moments?
And she said, bong hits, doing shots. And I just said, look, guilt by association, you can't be involved in a situation like this. You just can't. You can't afford to. And am I asking too much of Colin Kaepernick in a situation like this?
Not when you're trying to get $20 million a year, Dan.
I know.
Would Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, any of those guys ever be involved in something like that? You got to know where the line is, and then you got to stay away from it, especially when you're trying to get the kind of payday that is going to change your life and your kids' lives and your grandkids' lives. You've got to stay away from anything that could be characterized, right or wrong, as you doing something you shouldn't have done. And just that mention of the bong hits could be enough for the NFL's medical review officer to say, hey, guys, we got to look at whether or not you guys should be in the drug testing program.
Do the Niners use this in negotiations?
Well, look, they use everything in negotiations. Parag Marath, the team CEO, already has talked about how the advanced statistics get used by each side to support whatever position you want. And so if you've got a concern about some conduct that could manifest itself in a way that hurts the team's image, that hurts Kaepernick's value, that sets him up potentially for a suspension at some point. Ben Roethlisberger had his suspension a couple of years after he got his huge contract. Wouldn't have gotten that huge contract if he'd been suspended before that. I think it's a factor in the negotiation, and it could hurt him when the time comes to figure out exactly what value you put on Colin Kaepernick.
Eli Manning said he did not injure his ankle playing basketball at Duke, but there's a picture of him where he's with a group with a basketball in his hands. At Duke. He's going to have ankle surgery and miss a few weeks here. What? Now, they said it was related to the high ankle sprain he suffered against the Redskins at the end of the year. Is there anything to this basketball story?
Well, I mean, possibly, but I don't see the Giants doing anything about it. The guys won a couple of Super Bowls. Technically, they could look into it and say it's a non-football injury. If it ever gets to the point where you can't play because of it, we don't have to pay you. But highly unlikely it ever gets to that. But not the first time something like this has happened. Guys working out on their own away from the facility, any type of injury. Remember Jason Peters a couple of years ago, the Eagles left tackle. He ended up missing the entire season after popping an Achilles. Terrell Suggs tore an Achilles, supposedly doing things he shouldn't have been doing. I think he may have been playing basketball. And that happens. And I think the teams realize, look, the alternative is they're sitting around on the couch eating pork rinds, so we at least like the fact that they're out there being active.
So the story with John Bon Jovi would like to be involved in the group that buys the Buffalo Bills and relocates them to Toronto. Tell us the difficulty and the probability and the stumbling blocks or hurdles that they would face with that task.
Well, relocating is going to require a vote from the owners, and I don't think any owners would be in favor of moving a team to Toronto. Now, L.A., London, somewhere else, yeah, but Toronto has not been a successful market for the NFL. They pulled the plug on the Toronto experiment, at least for 1 year, after several lackluster performances. But for John Bon Jovi, if he wants to be the primary owner, he better make more records, Dan. He needs more money. He doesn't have enough money to own a team. You got to have 30% of the purchase price, and the purchase price is going to be $1 billion, maybe more. He's worth $300 million, which means he can't write a check for $300 million. And if he liquidates all his assets, then okay, fine, he could buy the team, but then he's going to be eating at the cafeteria with the players because he's not going to have any money left. So,
well, he's going to be involved in a group, so
yeah, but he's not going to be the owner. It's one thing to be, he could be the face. I mean, there could be a money guy who doesn't want the notoriety, who doesn't want the publicity, and I would say that guys like Stephen Ross and Jimmy Haslam, in hindsight, wish that they weren't out in front. So you get a guy who's behind the scenes, who's got the money, and then Bon Jovi can be out front. But it's he can own a piece, but he's never going to be a quote-unquote owner.
Would you buy – I don't believe this Donald Trump stuff either.
Well, no, hey, I'm interested in buying the Bills. Does that give me an AP story? Are you interested?
Mike Florio leaving NBC to own the Buffalo Bills. Oh,
Mark
yes.
Cuban's interested in buying the Bills. That would get him as much publicity as whatever he said a couple of weeks ago. So anybody can be interested. I think the guy to watch is Jeremy Jacobs, the Bruins owner, from Buffalo. And here's the thing. A report came out over the weekend, Dan, that a sale could be approved as soon as October. That tells me that wheels have been in motion for a while. That tells me they know who it's going to get sold to, and it's just a matter of time. And until it happens, these other folks who want to get a little splash of notoriety are going to throw their name out there, but I doubt it's going to happen for any of them.
Is there any backlash that Johnny Manziel actually had the highest Wonderlic test score of quarterbacks?
I don't think so, because it wasn't ridiculously high, and we don't have any real numbers. We just have, well, it was higher than any of the others, and I still don't know what the Wonderlic means. I still don't know why they do it, other than they always have, and because they've always done it, they don't want to stop doing it. I have no idea what the value of the thing is.
Well, but I don't look at how high. If it's a high score, I'm more concerned if it's a lower score. Johnny Manziel got 32, which is a really good score. I'd be more concerned Teddy Bridgewater got a 20 than I am Manziel got a 32.
I think Dan Marino, what did he get? Did he get a jersey number? Did he get a 13? I think he got low, and it didn't hurt him. I mean, that's the thing. I just don't know what it means. But you're right. Quarterback, cerebral position. You got to make decisions on the fly.
15 for Marino, 15 for Jim Kelly.
Well, there you go. But you know, and whether you can sit down and draw in the right circle at the right time in a classroom is very different than what you do when you're out there. There's nothing like being out there and you're trying to make decisions in real time where a 300-pound guy is trying to take your head off, and did the running back pick up the blitz, and did the protection shift the right way, and is the first receiver open, is the second receiver open, where's the safety? Those are all things that are more instinctive than anything else, and I don't think there's any relation to what a guy can do on a Wonderlic test.
Yeah. The hottest guy in the draft right now.
Oh, well, I mean, I think Clowney is picking it up again. You know, isn't it funny how we
How did he pick it up again?
Well, but we loved Clowney, and then we're like, oh, Clowney takes plays off. Clowney, he doesn't have a work ethic. You know what Clowney did, I think, Dan?
Oh, God.
Clowney heard guys like me saying, you should sit out 2013 because you got nothing to gain and everything to lose if you blow out your knee when you're already the first pick in the 2014 draft. And I think he started to protect himself a little bit, consciously or not. And I think that's why there's a perception that his play dropped off. I think once he gets paid, the guy's going to be a monster again, and I think people are starting to figure that out.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen. You get that rookie contract, and then you're going to get to the point where you get that big contract. That's when guys start to stop playing, you know, when they get that big contract. Or you don't want to get hurt in that final year before you get that big contract.
Well, that's the challenge. What do? Do you go all out that final year, or do you protect yourself?
I know.
You know? You go all out that final, or what you do is you put 3 years in, like J.J. Watt's done, and then you demand a new contract. And keep an eye on that, especially if they would pick Clowney, if the Texans pick Clowney. Watt at some point, I think, is going to make a play to get paid. And of all the guys who got drafted in 2011, he's the one I look at and say there's a chance he'll hold out. It'll be a surprise. I think there's a chance he will.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, every weekday at 5:30 Eastern on NBC Sports Network.